The geopolitical tug-of-war over Bagram Airbase, Afghanistan's precarious path forward. In the shadow of towering mountains and amid the echoes of decades-long conflict, Afghanistan finds itself once again at the epicenter of global power struggles. As we delve into the intricate web surrounding the Bagram Airbase, a sprawling military complex that has symbolized foreign intervention and strategic dominance for over 2 decades, we uncover a story that intertwines history's scars with today's high-stakes diplomacy. This narrative is not just about a piece of land, it's about Afghanistan's survival in a region fraught with rivalries, where political ambitions clash with economic desperation, and cultural divides fuel social unrest. Drawing from insights by international analysts and reports from leading global media, we explore how the United States' renewed push for control of Bagram underscores broader tensions, and why Afghanistan's future may hinge on forging a robust alliance amid encircling threats. Historically, Bagram Airbase has been a linchpin in Afghanistan's turbulent saga. Established during the Soviet era in the 1950s, it became a key asset during the US-led invasion following the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks. According to the New York Times, the base served as the nerve center for American operations, housing tens of thousands of troops and facilitating airstrikes against al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The post-9/11 era marked a profound shift. The US intervention, justified as a response to terrorism, unleashed a 20-year war that reshaped the region. Reuters reports that this conflict resulted in over 2,400 American deaths, more than 66,000 Afghan security forces casualties, and an estimated 47,000 civilian lives lost, with trillions of dollars expended. The invasion not only toppled the Taliban regime but also ignited sectarian violence and extremism across borders, destabilizing Pakistan and contributing to insurgencies in Central Asia. Analysts from the Council on Foreign Relations note that the power vacuum post-invasion allowed groups like ISIS-K to flourish, perpetuating a cycle of violence that has scarred Afghan society culturally and socially, eroding traditional community structures and exacerbating gender inequalities rooted in conservative interpretations of Islam. Politically, the current standoff over Bagram revives old wounds while introducing new fears. In recent statements, U.S. President Donald Trump has asserted that the base should return to American control, warning of severe repercussions if Afghanistan refuses. Fox News reports that Trump declared, "If Afghanistan doesn't give Bagram Airbase back to those that built it, the United States of America, bad things are going to happen." Similarly, Reuters quotes him emphasizing the need to reclaim it, citing its strategic value. This echoes earlier U.S. claims during the chaotic 2021 withdrawal, where American officials implied lingering interests in the facility. However, the Taliban-led Afghan government has vehemently denied any U.S. control, dismissing these assertions as baseless. According to the BBC, a Taliban official rejected Trump's suggestions outright, stating that the base remains firmly under Afghan sovereignty. Al Jazeera further highlights how the Taliban demonstrated military might at Bagram through parades and deployments, proving the dominance and refusing to hand it over to the US or any foreign power. The US position stems partly from the 2020 Doha Agreement, where American negotiators claim a tacit understanding that key assets like Bagram would not fall into adversarial hands, though the Taliban denies any such clause, as noted by NBC News. At the heart of US insistence lies a deep-seated fear, the potential handover of Bagram to China. President Trump has openly articulated this concern, pointing out that the base is an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons, in Xinjiang. NBC News reports this as a primary motivator, with Trump viewing Bagram as a vital vantage point for monitoring Chinese military activities. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty echoes this, explaining that US strategists see the base as essential for countering Beijing's expanding influence in Central Asia, including through the Belt and Road Initiative. The Guardian adds that regaining Bagram would allow the US to project power against nuclear threats, preventing China from gaining a foothold in a region rich in resources and strategic choke points. This apprehension is not unfounded. International experts like those from the South China Morning Post warn that a Chinese presence at Bagram could escalate US-China rivalries, turning Afghanistan into a proxy battleground. Afghanistan's vulnerability amplifies these dynamics. Militarily and economically weak after 40 years of war, the country is encircled by formidable neighbors. Pakistan, a nuclear power, has openly asserted its understanding of Afghan affairs, with its defense minister stating in 2025 that Islamabad views Afghanistan through a lens of security concerns, amid accusations of harboring terrorists. Al Jazeera reports on Pakistan's recent statements urging Afghanistan to curb cross-border militancy. To the west, Iran wields significant military prowess, having repelled attacks from Israel and the US, while claiming victories in regional conflicts. Yet, sectarian divides, Shia's dominance in Iran versus Sunni majorities in Afghanistan, fuel enmity, as highlighted by the Middle East Institute, which notes pragmatic but tense ties between Tehran and the Taliban. Russia and China, both superpowers, loom large. The Stimson Center observes Afghanistan's growing tilt toward them for economic aid and security pacts, with Beijing investing in mining and infrastructure. However, as the SWP Berlin think tank points out, this lean comes at a cost. Russia and China have historically offered limited support to allies against US pressure. In Syria, Russia provided military backing to Assad but often confined actions to airstrikes, while China stuck to diplomatic rhetoric, per Carnegie Endowment analyses. Similarly, in Iran's confrontations with the US, both powers have supplied arms and statements but avoided direct escalation, as noted by the Council on Foreign Relations. The US has periodically issued threats, invoking Bagram or abandoned weapons as pretexts. Reuters documents recent warnings tied to these issues, underscoring ongoing leverage. Meanwhile, the international community remains disillusioned with Afghanistan's Taliban rule, particularly over women's rights and religious extremism. Human Rights Watch reports that bans on female education and public participation have isolated the regime, with UN officials like those from the Security Council urging compliance with global norms. The BBC highlights how extremism has deepened social divides, alienating allies and perpetuating cultural regression. Economically, Afghanistan teeters on collapse. The Washington Post details how US aid cuts in 2025 have exacerbated hunger, with 22.9 million people, half the population, needing humanitarian assistance, per OCHA reports. Malnutrition affects millions of children, medicine shortages plague hospitals, and chronic poverty stems from war's devastation, as Save the Children warns. Socially, this has dismantled communities, with women's exclusion, rooted in extremist ideologies, hindering progress, according to the Atlantic Council. Reflecting on post-9/11's folly, when Afghanistan's refusal to extradite Osama bin Laden invited invasion, the region paid dearly. Pew Research Center outlines how the ensuing war fostered extremism, economic ruin, and refugee crises across South Asia. Britannica adds that it led to trillions in costs and persistent instability. Stubbornness now risks even greater peril, potentially inviting renewed intervention or neighborly aggression. Ultimately, Afghanistan's survival demands a strong ally capable of providing military deterrence, economic revival, and diplomatic clout. Experts from the Brookings Institution argue that the US, with its history of massive aid, over $140 billion since 2001, and proven counterterrorism partnerships, stands unmatched. Unlike Russia or China, whose support is often rhetorical, the US has demonstrated commitment through NATO alliances and reconstruction efforts, as per the Army War College. Yielding Bagram could secure this pact, shielding against predatory neighbors and fostering stability. As the Council on Foreign Relations posits, without such an anchor, Afghanistan risks becoming prey in a den of lions, proving that aligning with America isn't surrender, but strategic salvation.